Good morning, class, and welcome to part 2 of our Indiana Jones special. This week I'll be dressed as Professor Indy and showing you how to make a crystal skull. Last week, we showed you how to make a face melt effect for less than $35. And this week, I'm going to show you how to make a prop crystal skull, like from Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. It's in the title. Yes.
Can we spin the wheel to determine this week's budget?
Yes, excellent question. T.A. Gary. Okay, now that we've got our budget, we will need the following items for this build. 10 pounds of paraffin wax, 2 pounds of cheap alginate, 2 rolls of plaster bandages, 2 pounds of clay, and a leftover styrofoam head.
Next week, everything you thought you knew about Q and Erik will change. 6 times the questions, 6 times the infotainment, 6 times the back.
Okay, before we get started in this build, I have a little confession. This was actually our second attempt, and the first one was a huge disaster. So our first attempt failed horribly. Here's the first crystal skull. Yeah. Problem is the resin didn't cure the way we thought. It cured in like a big lump as opposed to like coating the inside of the mold. It just got a big stinky sort of clear brain thing. This sort of a better idea of what it would look like. Same material, just left in the front of the mold. So that's pretty cool. If we would have had a ton of resin, which probably would have cost us like $60 just for the resin. We could have filled the whole thing, but it would have been stinky. It would have been still not super clear. So long story short, clear resin does not play nice with big 3D molds or alginate or maybe me. I don't know. But let's show you how to do it the right way.
Super time lapse! Woo!
I wanted to start out with something that was already the basic shape of the skull, so I cut up an old styrofoam head. Using clay and photos I found on the internet, I did my best to sculpt the crystal skull out of clay on top of the foam. Take your time and refer to as many photos as possible. When you're happy with the clay positive, let it dry a bit, then cover it with a thin layer of Vaseline. Next, mix up some slow set alginate. We covered up the skull in 2 halves, using the same technique as in the second fake hand episode, which is basically alginate and then plaster bandages. The big question now is whether or not the clay skull would come out of the mold. Hooray! It did, and it didn't even get ruined in the process. Now we have an alginate negative. After trying to fill it with clear resin and totally failing, we switched to paraffin wax. We filled up the negative again, let it cool down, and then removed it from the mold. The cool thing about the wax version is you can carve out any imperfections after it comes out of the mold. So we just pulled the wax crystal skull, the second crystal skull, out of the mold, and it looked okay. It wasn't quite as clear as I was hoping, and it's a little like deformed, because this was the second time we used alginate mold the day after it was made. So it started to shrink and kind of get deformed, just something alginate does. So I had to jump on a plane to California. Jared's gonna finish up the skull, kind of carve out the wax and fix that deformation. You guys should try it yourself and send us a video.
I like where you're going with this, Maury, but I think the editing rhythms can be more urban. Oh hey, Chris Ford here. Graduation time is upon us and it's time to get a job. Have you considered a career in music video and commercial directing? There might be more to it than you ever imagined. Let's take a look. Number 1, beautiful views and a clean, hygienic working environment.
I want to work in this industry.
But mainly, it's all about snacks. Snacks.
Snacks.
Snacks.
Snacks.
Snacks.
And video games too.
There's treasure in every drawer.
What is this? Human hands did not make this.
Henry Jones Jr. Henry Jones Jr. And remember to enter the world of advertising if you can. Or if you can't, then don't.
Alright everybody, that wraps up our 2-part Indiana Jones special. I had so much fun these last 2 weeks making these effects because Indiana Jones is one of my favorite all-time series. I mean, they didn't even pay us for this. So why don't you let us know what you thought of the new movie by leaving a comment down below. And please subscribe because they didn't pay us.
When shooting digitally, step back from the camera for a minute, take a look at your dailies and make sure you really got what you want. Otherwise, you're going to let your actors go and you're going to lose the shot.